Got it.
Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me Adam Percipio. Good to have you on, Adam.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So, tell me where your interest in magic started to begin.
Well, I can't even say that it began, and I can't even say that it was an interest. It was one of those things that as a child, um, I believed in fairies because I was taught that the fae beings are real, like the celestials, dragons, leprechauns, and I had interactions with them because where I grew up behind a forest, so I was allowed to play out there in the forest by myself at a very young age. So I'd spend hours and hours and hours by myself speaking to the wind and to the rain, to the trees.
Yeah,
And luckily, I had witches in my family, so when I told them I had conversations with the fairy, or when I told them I saw a dragon, when I said I think I saw this being, I don't know what it was, and she said it was the goddess. My grandma said it was the goddess. Nobody ever told me that it wasn't.
yeah.
So, unlike a lot of adults, when I look at the clouds in the sky, I could still see the shapes because and this is just kind of like a silly theory that I have. But I actually like to think that the clouds in the sky are actually dreams because dreams are physical entities from a different dimension. So when they come and visit us to this realm, once you wake up, they have to go somewhere. So I like to think that they go back. And that's what clouds are made of. Now,
Mm,
scientifically, that's not accurate, but I mean, it's much more fun my way.
right, right, right. So basically, you had been aware of the spirit world for your whole life, really. It's not because
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of people, they start doing magic and then they have a supernatural spiritual experience. They're like, wow, this is real stuff. But with you, it had been apparent since you were a child your
Yeah.
whole life.
Like, I mean, I did my first things like in sixth grade. I
Hmm.
was, like I was doing some pretty heavy sorcery. I used to mess with vampirism a lot more than I do now. I was sanguine for a very, very long time. I
Uh,
was a bit addiction though. I had to kick it. Huh?
okay.
What?
Well, would no, no, I was just listening. Now, was there any occult book that you would say inspired you or really changed your life?
Um, I mean, the book of the law really took me for a turn. Uh, the Octavo, Peter J. Carroll, for sure.
Mm,
Every single thing that Blavatsky ever said. I mean, she was a fucking genius. I mean, that the Kabbalah, to be honest, the Holy Bible, you know,
mm,
because if you look at it from a Gnostic standpoint, and you just Trismegistus that shit on 12 fucking degrees of it, and it just makes more fucking sense, you know? It's
mm.
like instead of, but I really took a very, and I mean, it also like, I mainly practice out of the Greek pantheon. So, I, like all those old fables and tales of the Greek mythos as a massive, massive influence in my life.
Mm,
Everything the Shimon Parash and of the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Greater
mm.
Key of Solomon. Yeah, that's pretty much the books. But the problem is with me is that I don't really read too many magical fucking books because they get in my fucking way. Because it's one of those things where like I think I like to equate magic kind of like making love, like having sex. Like if
Okay.
like I was a virgin until I was 18, right? And
Right.
I remember I was sat there and I read the Kama Sutra and I studied the Tantra and I read all these books and all these things and all these things. And I got my first girlfriend and we get down into it. All that went out the fucking window. She was shaking and the sheets were soaked. And none of the things that happened was what happened when I read in a book.
Right.
Okay. With
Right.
magic is reading too many books. It's kind of like it's like trying to freestyle, but like you read a bunch of books on rap music. It's like trying to make like gumbo or salsa or like it's like really traditional earthy dishes like like home cooking, but then you're just following the fucking recipe. you know I think that reading too many magical literature books is it's not good for you because
Hmm.
you're basing your entire experience off somebody else and your interpretation of what somebody else has said. And this just really gets back into like, my belief that it's a major issue in our community right now that too many people are trying to reinvent the fucking wheel. Right? Like, how can you like magic and all of these techniques that have existed for thousands of years is like a bucket. How do you make a bucket better? It's
Well,
meant to hold water. How do you reinvent the bucket?
right. Well, I think for some people, like for myself, my journey began, with the Bible, and then from there, I started reading some occult books, and then I started practicing what was in those books. Then I got to a point to where I didn't need those books I was reading anymore. I could just go ahead and put spells together, and just go from that point on and develop my own system. Develop a system of
Yeah,
magic.
yeah.
It's still,
And
still very,
that's why I mentioned Peter J. Carroll and chaos theory. I'm a huge fan of it because
yeah.
honestly, if I want to learn anything about a system of magic or if I want to learn anything about a specific entity, I'm just gonna go ask the fucking source. I don't
Mm.
need to read a book and spend all this money to read a book on. And here's the problem: most of the people that write these modern day occult books, I don't even respect as a person. So why would I expect their literature?
Mm. I see. So I would say maybe
Magic,
bookstart.
magic is it's an exercise of the soul, right?
Mm.
So if you don't have a moral aptitude, if you're not morally sound or just, if you're
Yeah.
questionable at best, how is your craft going to benefit me in any form or fashion?
Mm. I see your
You're
viewpoint.
just spitting vitriol. That doesn't make any sense. Magic is the expression of one's soul. It is the manifestation. This is how I define magic. It is the action of manifestation of expression of one's soul.
Okay.
That's how I
Um,
define it.
Now, how would you describe your style of magic?
Let me see. Um, I would describe my style of magic as irritating. And let me think about that. I don't know. That's a weird question. Nobody's really asked me that before. How did I describe it?
Mm.
I think my style of magic's kind of like it's like that fucked up moment when you've hit a place. It's like, okay, I'm gonna paint a scenario for you, okay? It's like this
Okay.
fucked up moment where like, you're in a downtown city where you've never been before and you're like about to get fucking robbed or fucked over by the cops or something. And you only have one friend and then you're gonna call them. But if you do call them, it's gonna make everything kind of like irritating. That's what my magic's like. My magic's like it's so real and has such lasting effects that I don't cast easily.
Mm.
In fact, a lot of people have asked me either to cast on their behalf or either to bless or to curse for them. And I have to really get to know them and understand the purpose behind it because once I open these doors, um, I can control to the extent to a certain degree. But for me, magic is like it's as real as the ground I'm standing on, or the cigarette I'm smoking, or the tea I'm drinking. So my style of magic is that of reverence. It's not of
So, so would you say that your style of magic is similar to, like, let me give you an example. Bruce Lee once made a quote that said, he was comparing water and it will go in any shape you put it in, like similar to that.
I wouldn't even say it like that. I think that my if we're gonna go martial arts wise, my style of magic's more like a Shaolin monk.
Okay.
It's
I see.
yeah, it's very Shaolin. Like it's very disciplined, it's very rigorous, it's very disciplined. And if
Mm.
I have to open it, it will be opened. But what happens next is good luck.
Mm.
And that's not even towards other people that I've cast towards. That's even towards myself. My magic has put me into the depths of hell and insanity.
Mm.
I've met gods and demons, met goddesses, and
Right.
it's not something that it's my magic. I think my style is it's humbling. It's
Mm.
humbling because I'm Billy Badass until I start an invocation or a summoning, and then at that moment I'm just a student.
Mhm.
I'm a divine witness. I'm just bearing witness to the greatness of their divinity, not mine.
I see.
That makes sense. Does that
Now,
make sense?
it does make sense. Now, you work with the Goetia, and
Oh, yeah, dude.
where did your interest in the Goetia come from? How did
Well,
that?
it came from where it should have came from for everybody, from the fucking Kabbalah.
Mm,
It came from the Kabbalah. It came from the spheres of the tree of life. It came from the understanding of the Shimon Farash. The Goetia is one of 70, is 72. That's half of 144 spirits. This can sound rehearsed because I have to say it so fucking often because people once again try to reinvent the wheel and I don't
right.
want to give credit to the Jews to where it came from. You know, you could sound like a Nazi all you want and say the Greeks had it first. It's Jewish. Just, I mean, come on. That's like saying that's like that like for me when people make statements like that or try to say things like Goetia or trying to make it Latin when it's clearly fucking Jewish. It's like trying to say like white people made tamales or
Right.
like invented cornbread and collard greens. It's like, bro, you can't have everything. The
Yeah.
world's a big place, bro. But it came from the understanding of the Kabbalah. Okay, so 144 spirits were originally created by said creator. Now, these
Mm,
144 spirits are divided into two. Some are made by the breath of God, and some are made by the fire of God.
mm,
So, in this Jewish understanding, there's no such thing as a fallen angel. They didn't fall. In fact, to even say that they fell, it's kind of to be like, okay, so the all perfect creator isn't perfect. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Which never made sense to me when my parents tried to force me to kind of go to Sunday school. So I just went to my grandma's house instead, you know. But
yeah.
anyway, back to the point. So once you divide 72 into 12, then you have the allocated spirits of each that go into each sephira of the tree of life. So essentially, this is what brings the Goetia into alchemy, which brings it into hermetics. It's hermetic. It's a hermetic philosophy. It's a living hermetic philosophy. It is a way to engage the tree of life itself, to engage the different and the higher realms of essentially transcendentalism. This is where it gets really into like quantum theory and quantum mechanics because we are existing on this physical realm, but these beings are existing within and without because they're vibrating and oscillating on a different anatomical structure. They're vibrating different than us. So if you want to understand what's higher up there, which your soul is also touching. If you want to get in touch with different parts of your soul, as an alchemist, I find the easiest way to do it is through conversations with the angels. But see, what makes the Goetia so confusing for most people is although Solomon put it all together, most of these beings actually existed well fucking before Solomon. You got things like Baal, you got things like like essentially Solomon just he was the bastard that just put them all together. A lot of these entities, they were actually part of like, African voodoo religions, like way back in the day. Like he just put all of these grand souls and spirits together. See, so this is why I'm a firm believer in the concept of singularism, or essentially that all pantheons essentially are a different way of saying the same thing, but this is why when crossing pantheons, you have to really know your shit. Otherwise, it just gets fucked up. If that makes sense. That's why I'm
Yeah.
interested in the Goetia because I'm an alchemist.
Right. Now, is there a particular spirit in the Goetia that you like working with the most?
It depends on the day,
Mm.
and it depends on the reason. It depends on where my soul is. Um, I love Astaroth. Mm, we get along famously.
Yeah.
Beleth, through a lot of my Beleth working, she actually took such a fancy to me. She actually married me at one point. So she likes to consider herself kind of like one of my wives, I guess you could say. Um, Dantelian. Oh, if you want to know anything, if you want to know who's gossiping about you, if you want to know the secrets of like what dead men say, you should go to Dantelian for that. Things that I like to try to stay away from in the Goetia is trying to put such human concepts on them like gender. Like for instance, like on my forum, because I run the Goetia page on Facebook or one of them, and a lot of people have been saying things like the spirit Bim or Boon is a female entity, or like Glacia Laboslas is a female presence. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, well that's cool. Okay, I'm not gonna say you're wrong, but I'm just gonna say, as a Goetic master, every single time I've ever talked to Bim or Boon, he is a giant three-headed dragon that devours. And yes, you could use him for money spells, but the problem is he's a fucking dragon. So yeah, he'll get the gold, and then he'll fuck you over to take the gold.
Right. You know, I
Okay.
you
So
know, I
like,
always go ahead.
no, go on.
I always tell people that if you're not too sure about something, or before you work with a spirit that you're not too familiar with, it's always good to do a divination beforehand to see how it's going to go, because
Yeah.
it could be unpredictable if it's you're
Yeah.
going to territory that you've never been in.
Yeah, especially like when it comes to the Goetia, like there's ways to go about it. Like let's say like you want to speak to Paimon, you want to speak to Paimon. Okay. You can't, if you're new to this shit, you can't just fucking walk in the door and fucking cast a seal of Paimon and do a shitty ritual and expect that you're actually speaking to Paimon. There's three things I want to just get fucking plain and simple clear right now. One, you need to have a circle when you're casting with the Ars Goetia. You have to command the spirit into a circle. Two, you should always have a tetragrammaton because you have to command the spirit into truth. How do you know you're not talking to one of the legionnaires? How do you know you're actually speaking to the spirit? Let's just say that you did get lucky enough and actually did get Paimon on the phone. How are you going to control him? Because he probably doesn't like you.
Right.
And three, you should. Sorry, it's my chickens.
It's
You
okay.
should you should crawl before you attempt to fly, much less run.
Right.
All of these things are very, very important.
Now, what would you say are some misconceptions or misrepresentations in the left hand path?
Um, well, the biggest one that somebody that's unaware of their soul can make barters with their soul just to
Mhm.
gain benefit. The whole notion of selling one's soul for whatever the fuck. I don't think that you even summoned Satan in the first place, friends. Much less give him your soul. What makes you think he wants your soul? What makes you think he needs it? I think that's a really big misconception. I think the other thing is that demons are demonic because I don't, in my experience, the majority of them aren't. They are higher evolutionary, higher dimensional beings.
Mm,
Most people in the left hand path can't get over like things like racism or like being judgmental
right.
with their own species. So if you were to see a transcendental 12th echelon being that's taking time out of its existence to communicate with you, and you're perceiving it as something it's not, maybe you should do some self reflection and some self work because probably that's not what's going on now, is it?
Right. Right.
And
And
also, here's the thing: the biggest misconception, and this is actually for people in the left-hand path. I really just have to ask this question for you. Okay, let's just say these things are fucking evil, and they don't like you, and they're very evil. Then why the fuck would you want to summon it in the first place? That's like
mm,
it's like finding out that somebody doesn't like you and they're like this really big scary like UFC gangster like Tuco from fucking Breaking Bad or something. And then you found out that he doesn't like you, but you can get benefits by talking to him. So then you go knock on his front door. How does that make any sense? So
I
what kind of sick mental twisted fucking shit's going on in your head then?
I think some people tend to label a lot of spirits um that way because some spirits will try to trick you. So they should say, well, all the spirits in this category are like that, or in this category, that type of thing.
Yeah. 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 I feel you, man.
Yeah.
I feel you.
And let's also talk a bit how we're not in this for the money.
No, no. I mean, like I'm 2 seconds away from like opening up my own food truck and then restaurant. Um, I have a lot of things going on. Like sometimes I like to sell diamonds. Um, I'm in this for the craft. Now I do charge for my services, but I used to not. I used to not charge for my services, but then I would spend hours on the phone with people and then they wouldn't take my advice, or they would do it completely wrong, and then they would call me because everything went to shit. And then I would be having these repetitive conversations. And so, actually, a business partner of mine actually said to me, like all these years ago, he said, you need to start charging money for this. I was like, why? It's like, because people listen to you when they gotta pay for it, you know.
Yeah.
But my prices are very reasonable, unlike a lot of these other people. We don't do this for the money, though. We do this because it's our passion, it's our hobby, it's our
Exactly.
life, it's the great work.
Exactly.
A tarot reading for me is going to cost you anywhere from $15 to $25, not more, never more. If you want me to do a Goetic spell for you, that's going to start at like 72, but I can adjust the prices if times are hard and you really need the help.
Right.
Okay. Um, I'm not, I don't charge people money to talk to me on the phone. A lot of these prices for these people. Also, the other thing that I don't do, I don't do love spells. I don't do them. For
They
one,
they
that's
usually
very
they don't
volatile, dangerous magic. Yeah.
yeah they
You
usually
can't go
don't work.
against someone's free will. Yeah.
Mhm. they
It's
they'll
rapey.
end up backfiring as well. And then
Yeah.
once you got them on a spell, you got to keep putting it on and on because it's going to wear off,
Right.
and
Right.
they're gonna
Right.
notice
Yeah.
that, hey, they're gonna look at you differently.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, um, I like to involve a lot of life coaching in my working with my clients, because to understand what this magic shit is, you have to understand that you have to also make yourself better. You have to change the way that you perceive yourself. You have to heal yourself. You need to be different, be better. It's not a. This isn't fucking Harry Potter.
Yeah, so many people get misconceptions of the occult from Hollywood and from just
Yeah, for
stuff that's
sure.
on TV.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And then, like, and here's the other problem, right? A lot of these practitioners have only been practicing, like, Fredo, how long have you been practicing?
I would say probably since 2004.
I mean, look at my forehead. I've been practicing so much, I've developed horns. You know?
Yeah, a lot of people will, they've only been doing this for a short time, and then
Yeah, I've been
they think
practicing well
they can
over
help other
18 years.
people.
Yeah, and that's the dangerous part of it, because when people come to me, like when I used to perform exorcisms, when people would come to me for help, it's because nothing else is working. And just like me and Fredo said, we're not in this for the money. We're in this to help
Nope.
people and change lives, because we found something that benefited us, and we have a lot of love in our hearts and souls, and we'd like to share it. So if you new practitioners, if you guys are coming up to and trying to charge for your services, okay, well, that's one way to go about it. But the problem is that a lot of these practitioners, they don't even understand the entities or the goddesses or gods or forces that they're representing. So then, through their own personal lives and actions, they contradict that of which they are representing through their spellcraft, which is then dangerous, not only for the practitioner attempting to help somebody, but then also you're denying somebody that's asking you for help, proper help. When there are people like me and Alfredo that actually can and are qualified enough to actually provide these services, and these fucking newbies are getting all the glitz and the glamour because they understand PR, I guess, better than we do, because we're weirdos in the corner with books and candles and shit.
Yeah.
So you're not helping anyone. You're not helping yourself. You're
Yeah.
taking their money. Like, for instance, I had this one guy. I didn't even know what to do about it because it's a fucking love spell. And I had a student for a time. He just completely fell off. I don't know what's fucking going on. So this dude from Australia calls me, and I asked to call him because he apparently he paid this guy I was trying to teach that was a massive failure like $300 to do a love spell.
Oh
But
my
this
God.
dude he had actually just told me that he was just barely learning, really barely getting into the craft. I was like, well, shit, if you're gonna be my student, it's kind of like a martial arts thing. I was like, okay, if I'm your sifu, then I gotta fix your mess now. But then the problem is that it was such a love spell that he already paid for that it's not. It gets back to what I was talking about. I couldn't do it because, like, yeah, I could do a breakup spell, okay, but then she has to then within herself decide that that's not what she wants. And it's just like that gets into like free will territory and all these things. But this practitioner had ripped off this very good guy. I'm still friends with him. I was like, hey man, I did my best, but it's like love magic's not my forte though, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm still friends with him. He completely understands because I tried to do the right and honorable thing. But that's the problem with these new practitioners attempting to essentially be scam artists. And that makes it look really bad on us that actually dedicate our lives for it.
Well, what a lot of new practitioners don't realize is that even if they have certain spiritual gifts, it takes time and experience to develop how to use that and how to wield
Yeah.
that power. You can't
Yeah.
just, go in, have a sword and just go inexperienced into a sword fight. You have to learn how to use that.
Right. Right. I mean, you really do. I mean, it took me years to learn how to even control my abilities.
Yeah, it takes experience. You can say
Like, I
experience is
mean,
the best teacher.
I'm a natural witch and a shaman, and
Right.
I mean, I'm fucking powerful. It took me at least a solid out of the 18 years I've been practicing, a solid fucking 7 years just to be able to control myself and my own abilities. It affected my friendships, my relationships, especially when you're psychic like me. I would just like wander into people's heads, read their thoughts, and I couldn't even, I was like, oh, whoa, whoa. You know, I mean, that's
Yeah.
rude. I don't do that anymore. Or I would get mad at somebody and something horrible would happen to them. And I was like, oh, I didn't intend for that. So then I'm
Right.
like a walking bad luck charm because I didn't know how to control it. So that's why I put so much work and discipline into this because I was born with a natural, I'm a natural bitch. I was born with these abilities, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Adam, it's been a great conversation. It's been good talking with you.
Nice talking
Thanks.
to you as well. Oh, here's the really quick before we go. The
Yeah,
other thing that I think we should shy away from in the occult, and anybody watching this, I want you to look at the person's teeth before you talk to them. There's a lot of meth magic going around these days. If the person is in some form of recovery program and that's the basis of their life, maybe don't take magical advice from them because
you
a
know,
real wisdom,
go ahead.
like, because I used to have a problem with drinking. I used to go to AA. Now I could have a drink and I've cured my alcoholism because I've changed my mind. I'm not saying everyone can do that, but I'm a fucking alchemist. There's
What
ways to go around things.
what some people don't realize is that using meth and using drugs like that will block your chakras and
Yeah.
will block the flow of energy.
Yeah. 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 So I just want to say that for anybody watching this, look at their teeth.
That's a good
This
way to put
occultist out
it.
here. Anyway,
Um,
Fredo, thank you for having me.
yeah, no problem. Good having you on. And to all the subscribers watching, I will have all of Adam's links below this video. He has a Goetia group on Facebook. So all of you that are on Facebook, go ahead, check out, hit the link, join
And I
his
would like
group.
to say thank you for watching Madam Percipio the Alchemist. Have a nice
like
day.
like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.